Good evening, Fanaddicts. You've reached the Fanaddicts of film, and we're going to talk about some Walking Dead tonight. My name is Ben.
And I'm Joe, and we're going to start tonight by talking about yesterday's episode, The Key. And I'm pretty excited about this one. This was a good episode.
Yeah, I loved it. And just in retrospect, just want to make sure that everybody knows. Like, apparently, a lot of people are. I've been reading through some of the comments and stuff, and on some Walking Dead YouTube videos, and apparently, just a lot of people seem disappointed with this season. Joe and I, we love this show. I think I only think it's gotten better, personally. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what everybody's feelings are. I mean, I get it if they're expecting more. There was a lot of greatness happening in season 4 and 5 or so. But we're going to try to get past that. But honestly, I really feel like this show is just keeps getting better. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, there's always been, with like any long-running show, there are going to be episodes and seasons that are not going to be quite on the same level. But I think this season's definitely picked up a lot. I think it's been one of the more enjoyable seasons. And last night's episode was actually, it had some satisfactory moments for me. The image you see behind me with Rick and Negan kind of facing off, that kind of came to a head in a way last night, and we'll get into that, but that made me really excited. So.
Yeah, definitely, man. Just a great moment here. This is, just leading up to, of course, the face-off, well, just having to deal with Dwight facing Negan. I didn't think that they would have to see each other again. Just concerning the last couple of episodes, and he just I do not want to go back there. I don't want,
Well, at least the person who, and by the way, just so you know, spoilers coming ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, you might want to watch that before you continue along. Otherwise, by all means, join us in our discussion. I liked the fact that Dwight kind of, at least the person who knew that he was working with the Hilltop is dead, so he kind of has a way in to say I almost didn't make it out myself, and nobody can argue that. Nobody can say no, dude, you're a traitor. So it's working in his favor.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that, and just thinking of it right now, is his wife still alive? I mean, we haven't seen her for 10 episodes.
That's because she left. She left for Survivors, right. And that's why Dwight wants Negan killed, and then he realizes that the Hilltop will probably want to kill him for the things he's done, but he just wants Negan to be dead, and then the Saviors to be gone so that he can go and look for his wife. So he's got a good motivation.
I'm actually surprised that Negan hasn't really tried to go look for her, or at least send out some people to look for her, right? I mean...
Well, I think they've been dealing with a lot of crap from the Hilltop crew, waging war against them, so I think in a lot of ways that's probably the least thing on his mind right now. If she wants to go, fine, forget it. But yeah, I think that the relationship between Simon and Dwight in this episode was pretty interesting, because Simon's one of those guys that is played by a good actor, Stephen Ogg, who just always plays bad guys. He's one of those bad guys that you love to hate. You can't wait to see something bad happen to him. But.
And like all great shows, I really found this, and it happened in Game of Thrones. so often, it's the people that you hate first. You find you actually root for them at some point. You're finding yourself go, oh my gosh, why do I care if this person is living? Yeah. There's a moment where you find yourself you're betraying your own moral compass, etc. But you're betraying your original thoughts of this person. They've won you over somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that Simon's won me over. He is one guy that I would love to see him get his face pummeled, just because he's got no redeeming qualities.
Every single time.
He says things that are very kind of logical. He seems to be a man who doesn't like to do these terrible things that he does, but he does them anyways. And, I mean, he kind of almost has no loyalty in this episode, too. So that was another interesting thing. Yeah, let's get into that.
Which is what made me actually have a moment where I was once again betraying myself and actually caring about because of the way he was wanting the saviors to go on, etc., wanting to branch out. He kept saying about branching out, like it's like, let's be candid here to Dwight, trying to, but it's like you think that he's just trying to get him to say something to give himself up, But
I don't think he suspects at all. No, I absolutely think that he's really trying to. He realizes that Dwight's important, and I think he's really trying to get him on his side. And it's kind of like at the first moment where they think Negan. At this point, Negan has been basically sideswiped in his vehicle by a very pissed off Rick, and so it's kind of funny how quickly Simon's like, we're not going to look for him. Forget it. Let's just move on, and we're all still Negan.
Which was extremely surprising to me, but we're going to get into more into details on that in a second. But this was like
jumping ahead here.
But just once again, this is the blood and guts. What a beautiful piece of art that's been behind us for the past 5 minutes. Such beauty. I think I'll pay $500 for this one. This was at least it just reminded me. I keep thinking of how forgive me. What's our favorite mullet guy? What is our favorite mullet man? Our favorite.
Are you talking about Eugene?
Eugene.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's like Eugene's idea was, and his depiction of, we could just catapult him with body parts. I mean, that was his first idea in this whole thing, and of course Negan took it into a different direction. But it's just funny how he was like, well, we could do this with body parts and everything. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, I got a kick out of that too. And Negan, putting all the guts and blood on Lucille, and then there he is just kind of dipping Lucille into a bucket that's just full of greasy, grimy zombie guts. But again, like a lot of the episodes this season, this has multiple stories going on. You've got what's happening with Dwight returning with the group, with the Saviors. You've got Negan and Rick going into a nice frenzied fight. You've got a new character introduced, Georgie, played by Jane Atkinson, showing up to speak to Maggie and Michonne, try and barter some kind of peace. They kind of came out of nowhere, those characters.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening in this episode, and I'm kind of with you. I mean, I understand we live in kind of a fickle time, and fandom is very waning. If you do anything that kind of upsets fans or how they think it should be, they drop off. If a show goes too long, they tend to drop off. We're very much a culture of new and now and popular, and as soon as it's kind of old and faded, we kind of drop off. But I think sticking with some shows like this, like The Walking Dead, it's rewarding, I think. I think it's one of the best dramas on television.
I think it's extremely rewarding. I love the show. But every time that term is mentioned, drop off, it always, for some weird reason, for some bizarre reason, it always reminds me of The Dark Knight. And the joke is, what happened? Your balls drop off? Anyway, it's like, it's always that envision of, anyway. So we're going to continue on, but this is, once again, I just had to take more, speaking of Dark Knight, we got Two-Face here.
Yep.
Just great moment of Dwight. I've sold on Dwight. Once again, Simon won me over a little bit with just his bizarre, surprising, like you said, lack of loyalty here. So kind of crazy. I mean, but he's making you feel things, and I think that's the whole point. And that his motivations, etc., these things, and how he's kind of trying to figure. He's basically in this moment, he's figuring out what he's gonna do next, and deciding, should I even talk to Dwight about things? Should I even bring this up? Because obviously his faith in Negan is waning here.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, that's what you see.
Either that, or he's getting kind of power hungry himself.
You see, well, or something like that. You see it in his face here.
Yeah, and then he's talking to Dwight about, we should have a rap about this.
We're all chickens here, or something. So he says we're all chickens.
Just chickens here. The funny thing, or the interesting thing about this show too, is because they create a cast of characters and you get really invested, and then it seems like one of the best ways that they keep the momentum going is by, like a lot of really good shows like Lost and Twin Peaks and Heroes, is they don't have a problem taking out several characters, but they always have other characters to repopulate. So even though we've lost Carl and this season, and Dwight's kind of filled in that void of that extra
Yeah.
character, his story arc, and even Simon's getting a little bit more of a story arc going this season, which is one of the things I find interesting about the show because it's a good way of keeping it going, and kind of a soap opera-ish feel in the sense that characters just come and go, and there's always other characters that are going to pop up.
Yeah.
But it's just that they're making the characters that are becoming more prominent really interesting, I think, personally.
Me too. Just before I forget it, and I know that I didn't actually get images on it, but one thing that really stood out to me in this episode which was really interesting, is that Michonne has to she has to take a step back, and she takes a second and realizes, oh my gosh, we should be doing what Carl is doing. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
So, but she says specifically, she quotes him. She's like, do you remember what she quotes him specifically?
I can't remember the exact quote.
Darn it, I was gonna mention this. This was kind of an important factor because he's kind of like Carl's. Forgive the Star Wars reference, because there are going to be a couple of Star Wars references I'm going to make in this episode, but he's kind of like the Luke Skywalker of this, because he's passed on, and now there's having to realize, kind of follow his example. They were following. Michonne just realizes herself that we have to follow his example on that. There was one decision they had to make about something. I can't remember what it was. Just a bizarre moment of realizing, hey, what would Carl do?
Well, it's kind of like Enid says that, she killed somebody to live. Carl helped somebody and died.
Right,
and
okay.
it's Michonne who's kind of like, well, no, he was right. He was right in doing what he did.
Right.
And that's the path we should follow. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact quote. But
I was going to quote it.
It was a nice moment because you see, again, the characters... kind of a crazy world they're living in. They don't have to just deal with like the random anarchy of like free roaming zombies. It's also the anarchy of fallen society and other people, and so they're making the hard decisions, and I like how it changes their characters. We've seen, Father Gabriel go from one end of the spectrum to the other. We've also seen that with Carol, and we've seen that with Morgan, stuff like that. So, and Rick. So it's always interesting. Especially when a character finally realizes, like, no, there is a better path. There's always a better path, and they should take that.
Yeah, definitely. So I just thought that was an interesting moment with Carl, just realizing, Negan here. This was, and I didn't get the image, but he's really happy about his Lucille bathing in a bucket full of zombie guts.
Yeah,
I'm really happy
about it. He's a pretty sadistic guy.
It's just funny how he's so happy about this. He's like even though what's his name? I keep forgetting our mullet guy's name, Eugene. Even though Eugene came up with this idea, he's like, I came up with this idea. He's like somehow convincing himself that, this was my idea.
Yeah.
So this was a crazy moment because Dwight is just like, I gotta warn everybody. I gotta scout ahead. I want to warn everybody. And Simon's just, nope, not gonna happen. You're too valuable.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting the way that Dwight is in this episode. He's quiet throughout a lot of the episode, and he's got this. I mean, you could just tell he just does not want to be back with these guys. He really wants to kill Negan, and he really wants to get away from it all.
He wants to warn him here, especially.
Yeah, he definitely wants to help the Hilltop because he wants them to take out the Saviors and Negan. And it's just these moments. It's kind of like you mentioned before, where you almost think that Simon knows that he had betrayed the Saviors, even though he doesn't. I don't believe he knows. It's more of like he's trying to recruit him to his side, but I like how there's that little bit of intensity on Dwight's or paranoia on Dwight's end. So so he's choosing how he's acting and reacting very, very carefully, but he is acting different. I'm surprised no one has picked up on that. Maybe they just equate it to PTSD based on what he just went through or said he went through to survive.
And one of the moments, just forgive me for just rewinding a second, like when the moment, the scene that we have between Dwight and Negan, Negan has this big old spiel like we missed you, et cetera, and like at the end of it, it's a long spiel, and Dwight's just like thanks. It was a very brief, that is kind of, I don't know, it's he's being careful like you were saying, but anyway, so. Yeah, once again, we're all chickens here. Let's be candid. That's what we're saying.
Come on, let's have a rap. Yeah, no, that was a good scene. Seeing them in the truck together, moving in the convoy, and then it leads to Rick kind of spying on him. It feels like Rick is just kind of gonna take them on himself, and in fact, he almost does. Did you get a shot of him almost reaching for? He's watching them. He sees the convoy, and it's like he gets his gear. He puts his binoculars away, and he goes to the vehicle, his car, and it's like he's about to ready to honk the horn, as if to like announce his presence. And then he stops himself, and he sees Negan driving by, and that's when he decides, screw it, I'm just going to go run him down, which that made me extremely, it was like one of those yes kind of moments, like, do it!
And that's so funny that you picked up on that, because I did not pick up on it at all. I was like, what is he doing? Is he doing a force kind of... Forgive me for the Star Wars... I'm so sorry, everybody. I will not do Star Wars reference. I'll do maybe one or two more, but that's it. But yeah, it was just, he was... What is he? He's got his hand ready to honk. But anyway, so we're going to move on. Yeah, this is really cool. Shooting at the car that...
After a pretty intense car chase, he finally actually causes Negan to have a wreck, takes Negan out, his vehicle out, and then just goes on this really awesome shooting rampage. Negan is very lucky.
It was a very lethal weapon. I really felt like a Riggs. Like a Riggs moment chasing after him with an Uzi, you know, it was a funny moment. But the interesting part about this scene is that you don't see the car get turned over. It's just you see the end of it. That's all. And you'd think that they would show that, but yeah, it just they don't. It shows them chasing, and then the very next scene you see him turned over like this. So that was kind of interesting.
And it looked like they were using oh man, why am I drawing a blank? Steadicam for a lot of these shots. Not a huge fan of Steadicam. I think it's so much better than shaky cam. It's actually, to me, it's more realistic as to how we actually view things. And just any shots that are following and then cut to moving in front of a character while it's keeping a motion. There was a lot of really good motion, a lot of good editing in this, and it made for a really intense shootout. Like I just kept thinking, man, Negan is a lucky SOB because Rick just nearly took him out several times. Just by the skin of his teeth, he manages to take off and find his way into this building. You know.
And in this scene in particular, like he has like a split second where he runs and Rick's reloading, and for some reason I didn't get that shot. I thought I had gotten it.
I had it too, but that's okay. It was an intense moment. It made me really happy because I'm just like, Negan is one of those characters. I feel like he's a little bit comic booky for this show, and I get the irony in saying that. It's one thing to read the character and formulate the voices and the rhythm of the dialogue in your own head, and it's another when you've got an actor doing it in music, and I think he is a little less nuanced than, say, the Governor, who I felt was more psychotically and a little bit more complex. Negan's one of those guys who, you know, when he's backed into a corner, he's got very comic booky one-liners, you know, with the twirl of a mustache. But I did like the dialogue exchange when neither one of them really had, all they had left were their handheld weapons, no more bullets. Yeah. And I thought that it goes from being this really awesome car chase to a really cool shootout to suddenly an even more intense battle inside. And that scene right there, by all means.
The axe throwing?
Yeah, the axe throwing. Man, I think I'd screamed out loud. I think it was a yeah kind of moment where Rick goes in there, Negan's at the top of the stairs of this abandoned building, and he's just like, you got no bullets. Click, click, click. And so he just, come on, Negan's doing one of those tough guy things, and Rick just pulls out his axe. Whoo! And if Negan hadn't have ducked in the right moment, man, it would have gone right through his head, and it just leads to him falling off and dangling from these stairs. Man, this was an intense and happy moment for me because you've seen these two guys coming to a head ever since Negan showed up. You know, so.
I love seeing him fall, and I thought for sure he was going to take his hand off here.
I did too.
I thought for sure he'd take his hand off.
Yeah, and you know what? I kept saying to myself, I remember thinking to myself, don't talk, just hack. When you talk is when you get those moments where they can escape, you know what I mean? Or they fight back. He's dangling, just chop him in the head or hit. But I knew it wouldn't be that simple, of course. Of course not. You can't build up a character like Negan and just take him out like that. Even though, you know, it almost would have been really interesting if they had. But yeah, I was so happy that he didn't talk. It was just... and Negan let go at the right time to fall. So,
hashtag don't talk, just hack.
Just hack, man. If you've got an axe, if you're like Ash Williams, man, he doesn't really do the talking until after he's slashed you up. Like you just go for it. You talk later, you know.
Okay, so anyway, this is like a pretty fun. Okay, so they're out of order. They're out of order.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah,
fault.
yeah.
They're a little bit out of order.
Well,
This was
shame.
the sorry everybody, but this was the moment where the lethal weapon moment, but just barely missing Negan. Sorry, yeah, that was a little bit out of order. Sorry about that. And this is of course is the moment
Yeah, where he's taunting him, telling him to come up.
Come on up.
You got no bullets now. And I thought it was funny that Negan really didn't have anything to say to Rick until Rick ran out of bullets, because Negan's usually the guy who's always got something to say, right? And you could tell, you know, he probably had some brown trousers on by the end of this experience, because I think Rick really scared the bejesus out of him just by having the guts to run him off his convoy. I mean, Negan wasn't by himself. He was by himself in his car, but he was surrounded by, he had multiple vehicles in front of him with multiple saviors that could have easily taken Rick out. So I think it really put some fear into him of Rick, which is why he's trying to reason and barter with him, you know?
Yeah, it was great to see him. It was great to see him fearful.
Yeah.
So just really quickly, as
Georgie?
you mentioned before, Georgie,
New character.
we've seen her everywhere. She was in 24.
Yeah, she's an English actress, and she's done a lot of character. She's a character actor, and she's done a lot of television. I'm not as familiar with her as I felt I should be. I saw the face and thought, I know her.
Yeah, she's been.
But I couldn't place it, and then come to find out it's been a few TV shows here or there. But interesting, weird new character.
Yeah. Weird, yeah. Just like we have poetry and music,
Records,
and we want music. We want records. We don't dig spoken word. Don't give me any of that crap. We want music. So that was actually kind of funny. This was a great moment because it makes it classic. Sorry, the image sucks. I apologize.
Oh yeah,
it's really dark.
Yeah.
But it's the moment where, of course, you know, Rick and Negan are, you know, we have our hero and villain thrown into a situation where they have to have a conversation because they can't find each other.
Yeah.
So you have a great. It's like Luke and Vader. You know, can't find each other in the dark. So, but this is great. What was he saying? Like, what are you still alive? And he's like, I'm a damn cat or something.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what he says.
That's pretty.
But then Rick lucks out.
Yeah.
Because Negan's kind of backed into a corner and he's looking for Lucille, which he dropped when he fell and went through the floor.
Yeah, that was
those
good.
Stairs.
Sorry, this was once again out of order. I apologize.
Yeah,
That was the Rick moment.
This was that moment. It was almost like a Jedi moment right there.
Yeah, that's our stupid.
Well, yeah, no, he's definitely going for the horn there. And then it makes you think, what the hell? Like, were you really going to announce yourself to all those people? He's just so dead set now with Carl being gone. He's just so dead set on killing Negan. I don't think he cares what happens to him anymore. He's not thinking logically, because he was not acting logically in this. It was just pure aggression, which was fine by me.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, this was actually a really cool one because Dwight, picking up the half-smoked cigarette, and you see the half-smoked cigarette at the beginning. We see that same half-smoked cigarette in his hand with like a ring. I think it was like his wedding ring or something, wedding band, and one other thing, trinkets and stuff. But it was a great moment because it's like we've talked about before in film. If you have one object introduced, you see that in the future. It's very interesting.
Recurring motif. Yeah.
But it just brings that back, and so that was very interesting. And of course, flames.
Use it to burn Negan car. This, if I remember correctly. And I should, because it was just last night. I am getting older though, so the gray cells aren't working as well. But this is basically where Dwight had to convince Simon that he was on his side, and it was the choice of, do we go in and look for Negan, or do we just let it go and maybe he'll come find us? Am I right? Yeah. And he does that with a bang, flipping the cigarette into the car. And
I was actually dead set on seeing the two of them go in there, and then have to see the four of them fight in the dark. And perhaps Dwight have to give himself up because he has to somehow protect Rick. Like I could that could have gone a million other different ways. That would have been very interesting and crazy, because you would have seen him having to prove himself in a different way again somehow and all these things. But yeah, it just was all that was diffused with just one little fire.
Well, and honestly, I kept thinking the way Dwight was acting that he was just going to shoot Simon. Like, I kept waiting for him to pull his gun up and just shoot him in the back of the head. Nobody's around. It was kind of surprising that I wonder what the long game he's playing here is. I mean, we all know what his motives are. He wants Negan gone. He wants Rick to win, and the Hilltop to win. He wants the Saviors to be disbanded. And then he wants to go and find his wife. But it's just kind of interesting, some of the choices he's making, kind of drawing that out. And of course you need to, because we've still got a few more episodes left, and it's got to lead into the next season, which I believe the next season might be their last. I think so. Ninth season.
I don't know.
But it's very interesting choices happening in this episode.
And once again, Simon. Don't ask me why. I have no idea why I cared about him this episode. It's because, honestly, I think now in retrospect, I think it was because he just all of a sudden lost his loyalty to. He didn't have his loyalty to Negan anymore.
I don't really think he ever actually had the.
But it's bizarre because up until now, this whole time, you've hated his guts, and then you see him just being like, you know what, screw Negan. And so it's like, for him to be able to do that, it definitely threw me off. So, surprised
me. Of course, Simon with that damn mustache. I knew I recognized the guy because the actor, Stephen Ogg, also played Trevor Phillips in Grand Theft Auto 5, and he basically looks the exact same. It's the motion capture and the voice.
Oh, okay.
And he is he is far worse than Simon. Like, you think Simon's bad, Trevor is far worse. But it just makes sense that it's the same actor, because when I first saw Simon pop up, I'm like, I know that guy. Where do I know him from? Of course, in Grand Theft Auto 5. He's really good at playing really sleazy bad guys. And he usually has the mustache too, so not always, but usually.
Not so twirly. Yeah. But I think if Negan ends up dying or goes somewhere else or something, that him as being...
Negan's not going to die, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, anyway. So, once again, this was a really cool image, I thought, when this whole cracking of the light escaping through, and it was just really kind of a cool moment. When you get a burning Lucille, right? A burning Lucille... It's our lightsaber battle at the end here, a little Star Wars moment. It was pretty funny.
I thought that was really cool when Rick, with that shot when Rick takes the bat. But then when he's like, he's taunting Negan because he's telling you don't care about anybody, but I've got this bat. And then you see Negan kind of like, don't touch her, like...
He really cares about it.
Really cares about this bat, and Rick lighting it on fire, which probably actually killed all the zombie gut germs that were on there, so... It's probably not as lethal now as Negan hoped for, but just lighting it on fire and then the two fighting, surrounded by zombies, for the bat and for survival. It's a very intense claustrophobic moment, and I love fight scenes in small spaces. I don't know if you ever watched The Human Target on Fox that ran from 2010 to 2012. It was based on the DC Comics character. In fact, The Human Target's also appeared on Arrow recently, played by a different actor, but they specialized in having fight scenes in really small locations, and that was just one of the unique things about it. So now I notice fight scenes in small locations. They're hard to choreograph, they're more difficult and more intense, and I think this is probably one of the best. I don't know, this was probably one of the best overall fight scenes and action sequences that I've seen in The Walking Dead in a long, long time. It made me happy.
I thought so too. It was extremely unpredictable. Fight over the flaming Lucille several times and having to be bounced back and then forced. But like you said, now that you point that out, that does make me go. I realize, Negan only doesn't care about people at all. He cares about Lucille more than any human being ever.
Well, and I like the banter too. I thought this was really good. The banter between Negan and Rick, they're both basically calling each other out as to what they see, how they see them. Negan's like, "You're the reason why Carl's dead. I only tried to help you," which of course is a lie. Rick starts pointing out that you only lead by intimidation. You murder people. You force them to basically do slave labor for you. Like, you're not saving people. You're saving yourself. You're a tyrant. Of course, I have to go with Rick's viewpoint on that, but I just did like their exchange of ideas and calling each other out. There's like this intense hatred from Rick, but it seems like Negan doesn't quite hate Rick as much as he realizes the value of somebody like Rick, and it feels like he is really trying to like convince him, like, dude, I'm not the bad guy, even though he is, man. He beat two of their members down, like, in cold blood. I mean, I realized that was retaliation for the Rick's people taking out some of the saviors. But...
I wanted him to bring that up. So you've saved everybody. Then what about and he does bring that up. Did you save so and so? But I wanted him to bring up Abe and all the.
Well, he did point out to him though that the. What are they called? The trash people? What do they call them?
I don't remember that's
Simon did.
Well, that's when he realizes that that Simon did what Simon did, and so now it's going to be an interesting back and forth between Negan and Simon now because of that.
Well, and I'm speculating here because this show does parallel the comic book, even though it doesn't follow it specifically, which it shouldn't. It should be its own entity because television and comic books are two different things. And what would be the point of watching something that I could just easily read and know everything about? But speculatory here. At the end, we do find after the battle, after Negan escapes Rick, and Rick can't find Negan, you just assume, oh, he's gotten away. But then if you find out that he's actually been taken captive by the leader of the trash people, I forget what they're called, with the crazy haircut, and I actually think she's going to deliver him to the hilltop. I think she's going to deliver him to Rick as a barter, and if it's anything like the comic book, Negan might be with the hilltop people in a prisoned capacity for a while, which is going to be very interesting. So I'm that's another reason why I still like the show, is it's always, it's a good show when you look forward to it week after week. Even when there's filler episodes or bottle episodes or typical television episodes that aren't as strong with any show that you watch, if it still has a good cast and good concept that keeps you coming back, that's when you know it's a good show. And then a lot of times when people fall off of a show or drop off, and I get this all the time for The Simpsons, because I still watch The Simpsons. People go, it hasn't been funny in years, but how do you know if you're not watching? And for a lot of the people that I think are complaining about The Walking Dead, I don't think they're actually watching The Walking Dead. So, because those of us who are still watching, we know a good thing. When we see it, we know it's a good show, right?
And even the people that watch it and say it sucks, you're still watching the show.
Yeah, you're still watching it,
You still, at least, I don't know, I'm not trying to call anything out, I'm just saying, I love the show. It's great. So just we're gonna try to end this, but this was a great moment. They're like, for Negan. It made me think of Justice League for Darkseid. Yeah. So that was just kind of a funny moment, but
kind of a weird rallying moment.
A key to the future, kind of an interesting thing here. So it's like our history, etc. These things, but anyway.
I thought it was also interesting too that Georgina barters. I mean, she shows up and she gives Maggie, food and records and things, and says, well, this isn't a gift. We're bartering. We'll be back at a later time. We want you to give us something.
Apparently, we have a huge store of food. Apparently,
apparently they've got a lot of food and record players. That's you would think it would be more like, I don't know, CDs, not just because it's easier to tote around, but somehow people are keeping record collecting going even during the apocalypse. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was kind of interested when they brought out the record crate as, what is in there? What? I want to see what they're listening to. Have a Shaun of the Dead moment,
Yeah. All right, anyway, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thanks so much. Hopefully you liked this episode as much as we did. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't.
But overall, thumbs up, good job, good episode, good performances all around, and looking forward to next week's episode.
Thanks again for listening to us and watching us and hanging out with us. Please leave a comment, subscribe, and or like if you like this episode.